This is Stephanie from the Sugar Stems, here along with Betsy from the Sugar Stems. Today we're going to talk about anxiety and stage fright and how we can use a tool called mindfulness to help us with it. I know that stage fright is something that I struggled with big time. And I relied on Betsy a lot to help me because she is a mental health nurse. So Betsy, do you want to say more about this?
So yeah, just like Stephanie, I experienced stage fright too. It's a very normal thing to experience. And as I worked in mental health for a lot of years, I got to know a lot more about like how our mind works and how our brain works and like the response that our bodies have to stress and anxiety. And I feel like it really helped me to understand what happens when we have stage fright or just anxiety in general. And I was talking with Stephanie about it one night, and we decided like that would be a great thing to share with you guys in case that's something that you struggle with too. So sometimes just like understanding what goes on in your mind and your body when you're super anxious or having like a stage fright or like a panic attack almost, like it really helps you to understand what's going on and then to calm yourself down. So I'm going to show you guys some stuff to kind of like teach you about that reaction. And then we're going to talk a little bit about mindfulness, which is like a skill that you can kind of teach yourself to use to calm down when you're feeling really anxious. So let's take a look. All right. So anxiety, depression, and stress can affect our body. And like I said, we're talking about this kind of in the context of stage fright because that's sort of like a stress response. But if you are somebody who maybe struggles with anxiety or depression, or you just are faced with stress sometimes, which is really everyone on the planet, this will be helpful stuff for you to know too. But we're going to be talking about it kind of like in terms of stage fright, because that's such a great example of how this works. So something I always like to ask people who I work with in mental health is what are like some of the things that your body feels when you're really like stressed out or nervous or upset or mad, or like, have you ever had a panic attack? What did your body feel like in that moment? And I think maybe Stephanie, you can share some of your experience too, like when you've had really bad anxiety or like stage fright right before a show. Some of the things you felt, like a lot of people feel shaky or jittery. Some people get a stomach ache. What are some of your things, Stephanie, that happened to you?
Really shaky. My hands get really shaky, which when you are playing an instrument just kind of exacerbates or makes it worse because I'm afraid that my hands aren't going to stop shaking. I get a really dry mouth when I get really nervous and anxious. My stomach hurts. I have to go to the bathroom really bad. And I just sort of get, I get really quiet and I lose my headspace and I'm getting so wrapped up in thinking about how I'm so nervous that I don't think about all the fun I'm going to have. And so need to practice how to get rid of those feelings.
And that's all stuff that's really super common. So I know like when I get really nervous before a show, sometimes I feel like my palms are getting kind of sweaty, or like I'll feel like my face is getting red, and then I'm more anxious because I'm worried everyone's going to know that I'm anxious. So that's another big part of it. Like sometimes like when we feel really anxious about something, our body freaks out and all this stuff happens, and then we're even more nervous because we're worried people are going to notice. When in reality, it's such a normal response to doing anything in public in front of people. It's such a normal response. And I think the one thing that Stephanie and I can both tell you is that the more you practice and the more you play, the easier it gets. And you will become so natural, and you will feel so good when you go onto stage to play with your band, because the more you practice, the easier it gets. So, but like I said, we're going to talk more about some things that we can do to help sort of like help this response when it happens. So like we talked about, a lot of things that happen to our bodies when we're having like that really super anxious state is like our heart starts beating faster. A lot of people, like, their breathing gets a lot faster. Other crazy kind of things that happen, some people get sweaty, like this guy here who's about to take his test, or this girl here behind me, she's getting real red in her face. A lot of people explain it like having butterflies in their stomach, so they feel kind of like queasy or yucky in their stomach. And some people even feel like dizzy or like they're gonna faint. So it depends, everybody's a little bit different, but these are all things that are so like normal, expected responses to stress in our body. And I'm going to talk about why that happens, because I think, like I said, if you understand why it happens, I think it helps you to understand that it's very normal and that we can definitely like wrap our head around it and calm ourselves down. So we know like a lot of the things that happen, but why does it happen? So if you guys have ever had like a science class or a biology class, they probably talked to you about the fight or flight response, or sometimes it's called fight or flight or freeze. And basically what that means is we have this like response built into us as humans, and animals have it too. And it's meant to kick into gear when we are faced with something that's a threat to our safety or like a threat to our life. And it's our body's way of responding either to fight to stay alive, or to run away to stay alive, or to freeze and stay still. So we like to always use the example of, it's something like that a caveman running away from a saber-toothed tiger. It's like built into us as humans, like we've always had it since the beginning of time. So, and it's meant to keep us safe and protect us if like a saber-toothed tiger jumps out at us. The problem is sometimes this response can get switched on by things that aren't really a threat to our life or our safety. And I'll give you guys some examples of what I'm talking about. So like when something really scares us, or something we perceive as like being really stressful, like we have to talk in front of a bunch of people or sing in front of a bunch of people and we're really nervous, sort of like this panic button area of our brain lights up and it turns on. So that's your fight or flight response turning on. So then what that kind of leads to is all this other stuff happening throughout your body. All these different hormones get released, these different like neurochemicals in your brain, they all start flowing because your brain thinks you're in trouble. So your brain is trying to prepare your body to fight or flee. So that's why your body thinks, okay, my heart needs to beat faster and my lungs need to start breathing harder because I need to run away or I need to fight. So that's why all that crazy stuff happens to your body when you get really nervous. So like I said, it's a response that's built into us and we use it to survive. The problem is that sometimes it can go a little wacky and out of control with things that aren't really a threat to our life. So say you get a text message that makes you really mad, or like you see something, read something online that like really upsets you. For some people, that can turn fight or flight response on. So all of a sudden, before you know it, then you're freaking out or you're screaming, or you might even be like this guy and smash your phone. And that's something that's like a response that can happen to some people in the face of like a stressor that later on when you're calm, you're like, that really wasn't that big of a deal. But in the moment, because your body just perceives it as something that could be super harmful to you, all of a sudden you go into your fight or flight mode and you might yell, you might throw something, you might run away or flee. And I know like for me personally, when I have this turned on, I tend to want to flee and run away. So especially with stage fright, it's really hard to like get up on that stage and play your songs and do your thing when your body is thinking, oh my gosh, this is terrible. I need to run away as fast as possible. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. The other thing about this response is like the rational, more like thinking, critical thinking part of your brain kind of gets switched off when your fight or flight gets switched on. So if you've ever done something, you're really mad or really anxious or like really super nervous about something, and then later when you were calm, you were like, I don't know what I was thinking, or that wasn't even me. I don't know what I was thinking when I did that, or like it felt like I wasn't even there. That's because when your body goes into fight or flight mode, all your energy and all your thinking power goes towards fleeing or fighting to survive. So your logical thinking brain, that's like needs to, make decisions to calm yourself down, the switch just kind of gets flipped off in that moment. So
That's definitely happened to me where I have felt like I don't even remember being somewhere because I was so nervous that I.
and it's like your rational part of your brain kind of gets short circuited. So it's so hard in those moments to really just think straight and like think about, okay, what do I need to remember? I can't tell you how many times I've like gotten nervous and forgot all the words to a song or forgot a whole part of a song. It's so common, and it's just because like when your anxiety brain takes over, your like rational thinking brain tends to take a back seat. So it's a very normal response. We all go through it. Everybody goes through it. And again, like the more you play and the more you practice, the easier that it will get, that this response won't even be a thing for you. But there's another thing that we can do to help train our brain to stay calm when we feel that anxiety starting to creep up. So a lot of things we can do to relax ourselves. We're going to talk about mindfulness a lot, but here are some other things that you can try at home on your own to kind of help yourself to calm down. So like deep breathing is a really, really awesome skill. If you struggle with anxiety or panic attacks, when you stop and just focus on your breath, it sort of forces your thinking brain to turn back on and your anxiety brain to turn off. So the little graphic that I put in the corner, you can find this on YouTube if you search for deep breathing exercises. And all you do with this one, it's a really good example of something super simple you can do. You could pull this up on your phone before you go on stage. Just sync your breath with the graphic as it expands and contracts. A lot of people, it helps to have something visual to look at, to sort of like just focus in on that. And you will find that like that anxiety, like especially if you're somebody who has like a really fast heartbeat, when you get anxious, doing deep breathing like this is super helpful for that. So other things just like in general that you can try for relaxation, say like it's the night before the big first show and you're just feeling so anxious, you feel like you're like, I don't know how I'm going to sleep tonight, I'm so nervous about performing tomorrow. Try some of these things the night before. It will really help you. So distraction, so using anything to distract yourself, like reading a book or watching a funny TV show. Guided imagery, you can find that on YouTube too. If you search for guided imagery, there are a lot of sort of like a meditation that somebody takes you through. They describe a relaxing scene and then you close your eyes and you can kind of like put yourself in that scene. That's a really good thing to try. And that's another thing that you can do like even on your own right before you go on stage, is maybe like close your eyes, take some deep breaths, and then picture a place that you feel really calm, like the beach, or maybe in your bedroom, or maybe somewhere that's special to you that makes you feel calm. Aromatherapy, so like essential oils, stuff like that. Using your senses is really good. Massage, so maybe if somebody wants to give you a back rub the night before, that's a really good way to help you to kind of like calm that anxiety down. Stretching and yoga is so good for anxiety, so that's an awesome thing to do, like maybe like the morning of your show, or like I said, the night before. If you're feeling that jittery feeling, try doing some yoga or some stretching. And then other things you can do is like if you're really freaking out is to put your face in some cold water or like put an ice pack on your face. There's like a physiological response that happens when you do that, that sort of like stops that fight or flight response. It's really interesting. It's been studied a lot and it's been scientifically proven actually. So if you put something cold on your face when you're really, really anxious, like freaking out, like breathing, like panic attack level anxious, try putting like an ice pack or like ice on your face. It kind of helps to like stop that process. So exercise is a good one. And then just like in general, taking care of yourself, so like drinking lots of fluids, making sure you're eating enough. That's all like really protective for you when it comes to like stress and anxiety. And these are all things that like are going to help you with those like pre-show jitters, but also just in your life in general and managing stress, because we know like, you know, especially like in middle school and high school, you guys go through a lot of crazy stuff. There are so many big changes in your life, and just learning how to like take care of yourself and be patient and be gentle with yourself, and practice some of this relaxation stuff is going to help you in so many areas as you get older. So those are some of like my go-to relaxation techniques. And then mindfulness basically ties into a lot of things that we just talked about, but the whole concept of mindfulness, you might have heard about it before because they're trying to implement it in schools a lot more now. It's basically focusing on the present moment. So not thinking about the past, not thinking about the future, but focusing on the right here and the right now. And just like a really quick, simple example of this is closing your eyes and just focusing on what your senses feel. So the things that you feel, maybe if you're sitting outside and doing this, you feel like the wind on your skin, or you can focus on like you hear birds or you hear an airplane in the sky. You can focus on like, oh, I smell grass or I smell the trees. And going through all of your senses, that's a really good like grounding thing to do. And that is mindfulness. So mindfulness is just like being aware of the present moment and your present surroundings, and then just like paying attention to it non-judgmentally. So it kind of helps you to sort of like push pause on whatever is causing you to freak out and just focus on the here and the now and the present moment. So for a lot of people, mindfulness, they practice it as meditation. So closing their eyes, some people do like a guided meditation. I would definitely encourage you to look on YouTube for guided meditations, because there are so many available, and it's basically like they'll talk you through a meditation. You close your eyes, you find a comfy spot in your house where you won't get to be disturbed, and you can just kind of go through a meditation where you're focusing on your breath and you're focusing on how your body feels. Some people though, like meditation is not really their cup of tea. They don't like it. They don't like being quiet. So with that said, there are so many other things that can count as mindfulness. Basically, anything you do where you are like so in the zone while you're doing it that you are just very like in that moment, totally in the zone, doing that one thing, you are totally unaware of everything else that's going on around you when you do it, that counts as mindfulness. So for some people, it's like art. For other people, it might be like exercise or sports. Some people, when they're like running or exercising, they feel totally in the zone when they do it, and their only focus is like the here and the now while they're doing it. So deep breathing is a good one. Counting while you're deep breathing, that's mindfulness. Snuggling with a pet is a really good one. Being outside is a really good way to practice mindfulness. Hiking, taking a walk. But especially listening to music and playing music, playing an instrument is such an awesome mindfulness activity, because you are using a part of your brain and you're establishing these connections in your brain that you're really like in the zone, and you're very focused on playing your instrument. And I'm sure like as you guys have gone through or go through your week of like learning a new instrument and learning to play music, you will experience mindfulness in that way. I really hope that that's something that is helpful to you, because for me, and maybe Stephanie feels the same way, a lot of times, you know, especially like the more I practice and the better I got at my instrument, really like singing and playing music was such a mindfulness exercise for me, because when I did it, I felt so calm and at peace, and I was just thoroughly enjoying what I was doing. So all that like pre-show anxiety and that just jittery feeling, really like once I got going on stage, it just kind of melted away, because I was so in the moment of playing my music. So I think that mindfulness is totally music. So I think that that's just that you guys are learning an instrument and you're learning to play music. That's like a skill that you will carry over again to like other areas of your life, because it's going to be a great relaxation, hopefully a really great relaxation activity for you guys, the better you get and the more comfortable you get with it. And there will be days when you're older and maybe you're coming home from school or work or whatever, and you had a rough day and you just need to unwind, and like music will be your thing that you go to for that. So definitely like always keep that in mind when you're feeling anxious, just in general, like use your skills that you have and the ones that you know that work for you. So whenever you are in the zone, whenever you are taking notice of all like the sights and the smells and the sounds around you in a non-judgmental way, you are being mindful. So mindfulness has been scientifically proven to strengthen the areas of the brain that help you to calm down, and they keep that fight or flight response from flipping on. And at times we don't want it to flip on, or we don't need it to flip on. So that's why I like to share with anyone who will listen pretty much about mindfulness and how helpful it is with stress and anxiety. So that's my piece. That's what I have to say about stage fright and relaxation. Stephanie, do you have anything to add?
I just want to say just that these are all skills that you will carry along with you to adulthood. For just even now, I'm going through a new job and it's very stressful on me. And I come home and I play my guitar and I zone out, and it makes me feel so much better. And it's just a lifelong skill. So thank you, Nurse Betsy.
You're welcome. I wish all of the campers the best of luck in your future music endeavors. We're so proud of all of you guys. We are so happy to have you in our local music scene. And I just can't wait to see what everybody does.